vanished without a trace. It was a quiet summer evening in the small town of Marlowe Ridge, a place where everyone knew everyone, and secrets rarely lasted long. But on the night of July 14th, something happened that would leave the entire town whispering for years. Emily Carter, 27, had just finished her shift at the local diner. She waved goodbye to her co-worker, tossed her apron into her car, and drove off toward the edge of town where her small farmhouse stood, nestled near the woods. Her routine was always the same: work, drive, shower, dinner, bed. Nothing out of the ordinary, nothing strange. Sheriff Daniels, a man with 30 years of experience and the kind of calm demeanor that came with seeing too much, launched a full search. Volunteers combed through fields, woods, and every crevice they could find. Dogs were brought in. Helicopters circled the area. But there was nothing. No footprints, no torn clothing, no calls made from her phone. It was as if Emily had simply vanished. Her parents, devastated and confused, insisted she wouldn't just leave. She had no enemies, no problems. Her mother sobbed on local news. She was happy. She was planning a trip to Italy next spring. The investigation uncovered nothing solid. No camera footage, no witnesses, no leads. Until day 4. That's when a hiker found something strange deep in the woods. A series of symbols carved into the bark of an old oak tree. The cuts were fresh. Beneath the carvings, a single item lay on the ground: Emily's silver necklace. The one she wore every day, the one engraved with her initials. The sheriff's team marked the spot, took photos, and began to widen the search radius. The symbols were unlike anything local experts had seen. Not runes, not random scratches, deliberate. One deputy, a young guy named Harris, grew obsessed with them. These weren't just markings, he told Daniels. They're a message. Deputy Harris stayed up late the night after they discovered the symbols, poring over books on ancient languages and obscure cult activity. Something about the carvings unsettled him. Their symmetry, their sharp angles, and most of all, how familiar they felt. Not because he had seen them before, but because they seemed intended to be found. By morning, he approached Sheriff Daniels with a theory. "What if this isn't a random disappearance?" he said. "What if it's ritualistic?" Daniels didn't dismiss him, but he wasn't ready to go chasing ghosts either. "Let's get facts first," he said. "Follow what we know, not what we imagine." But that day, more facts would surface, and none of them comforting. A group of searchers discovered a second set of symbols, this time carved onto a large, flat rock, about 200 meters from the tree where Emily's necklace had been found. And beneath that rock, buried just under the soil, was a small tin box. Inside it, a photograph, faded and water-stained, but unmistakable. It was Emily sitting on a bench near her home, smiling. Written across the back in shaky handwriting were the words, "The forest remembers." Now Daniels was worried. The FBI was called in, but even they struggled. No other disappearances in the area. No recent prison releases of violent offenders. No records of Emily ever being stalked or threatened. Yet someone clearly knew her well enough to photograph her without her noticing, and to leave the picture behind like a breadcrumb. The case made the regional news. People from nearby towns stopped visiting Marlowe Ridge. The local diner lost half its customers in a week. Fear does that. Then, on the 7th day after Emily's disappearance, the sheriff received an anonymous envelope. No return address, inside a USB drive. Daniels hesitated but plugged it into his office computer. There was only one file, a video, exactly 42 seconds long. The footage was dark and shaky, like it had been filmed on an old camcorder. Trees swayed, branches cracked. For a few seconds, there was nothing but motion and wind. Then the camera stilled, and Emily appeared. She was standing in the middle of a clearing, barefoot, hair tangled, eyes wide and glassy. She wasn't screaming, she wasn't crying. She was whispering something over and over. Daniels turned up the volume. The sound was muffled, but after playing it again and again, one phrase became clear. "He's in the trees." Then the screen went black. No timestamp, no geolocation data, just that phrase, over and over. The FBI tracked the origin of the drive to a public library one town over, but security footage showed a person in a hoodie, head down, wearing gloves. No facial recognition hits, nothing useful. Emily's parents, shaken by the video, insisted the woman in it was their daughter. She looked drugged, her father whispered. That wasn't right. That wasn't normal. Back in the forest, more symbols began appearing, etched into rocks, trees, fence posts. They hadn't been there before. Search parties weren't sure if they were being watched or, worse, followed. People began quitting the search. Daniels doubled patrols. The town started locking doors in broad daylight. And Deputy Harris? He became more obsessed. He started sketching the symbols in his notebook, comparing them, trying to decode their sequence. It's not just language, he said one night. It's a pattern, like a map. 3 days later, he disappeared too. He started sketching the symbols in his notebook, comparing them, trying to decode their sequence. It's not just language, he said one night. It's a pattern, like a map. 3 days later, he disappeared too. They found Harris's notebook on the passenger seat of his patrol car, which was abandoned on the side of Route 19. Engine cold, driver's door ajar, no signs of struggle. His flashlight lay in the grass, still working. His radio was on the floor, cracked. But Harris was gone. I think I found the center. The clearing isn't random, it's a gate. If you follow the markings in order, you find the path. I'm going in. If I don't return, destroy this book. But it was too late for that. The FBI attempted to cordon off the area. No one was allowed within 2 miles of the original clearing. Locals were told it was due to unstable terrain and ongoing investigation. Daniels didn't buy it. They know something, he told his deputy, Carla. They know more than they're saying. 2 nights after Harris vanished, Carla was reviewing his last dashcam footage. The file was corrupted, glitching in parts, but at timestamp 23:41:12, a shape moved across the frame. Tall, thin, human-shaped, but not quite right. No facial features. Limbs longer than normal. It flickered, almost like static. Carla paused the video and zoomed in. The moment she did, the screen turned to black and the entire system shut down. When she rebooted the computer, the file was gone. That night, Carla began hearing noises in her backyard. Dry branches snapping, slow footsteps in the grass. But when she looked, no one was there. People in Marlowe Ridge started reporting dreams. Strange, vivid nightmares involving trees with eyes, long corridors made of roots, and a voice whispering in an unknown language. One man, a local hunter, woke up in the woods with no memory of walking there. He was barefoot, with scratches on his legs and a crude carving of the same symbol Harris had been obsessed with, cut into his forearm. No blood, just scar tissue, as if it had been there for years. Sheriff Daniels had had enough. He gathered his closest team, including Carla and 2 trusted deputies, and headed toward the clearing, the center that Harris had written about. He took the notebook. He followed the order of the symbols as best as he could understand. After almost 3 hours of hiking off trail, the trees began to thin, and the air grew heavier, like breathing through water. Then they found it. A circle of standing stones, each marked with the same ancient carvings, forming a perfect ring around a pit. In the center, the earth was scorched, blackened like it had burned but left no ashes. Carla stepped closer and gasped. In the dirt, partially buried, was a shoe. A girl's shoe. And next to it, a photograph. Another one. This time it was Harris, taken from a distance, looking over his shoulder, unaware. On the back, he went looking. One of the deputies started shaking. "This isn't a crime scene," he whispered. "It's a message." Daniels didn't disagree. They marked the site, took samples, and returned to town. The next day, the standing stones were gone, vanished. No drag marks, no footprints, no disturbed earth. Just an empty clearing, and a breeze that didn't feel like wind but something watching. After the standing stones vanished, something shifted in Marlowe Ridge. People began to leave, quietly, without selling homes or packing bags. Mail piled up, lawns grew wild. Within 2 weeks, 15 houses stood empty. Carla couldn't sleep. She kept hearing whispers, not in her head, but through electronics, radios switching on by themselves, her phone vibrating with static instead of calls, her baby monitor crackling even though she had no kids. One night, Daniels called her in a panic. "I saw Harris," he said, "in the woods just now." He was breathless, confused. He didn't look right, Carla. He moved like a puppet on strings. Despite her fear, Carla met Daniels near the tree line. His hands were shaking. He pointed silently. There, maybe 30 feet deep in the brush, stood Harris, unmoving. His uniform was torn and faded. His eyes, or what should have been eyes, were dull, like wet glass. His mouth hung slightly open. A small trail of blood ran from his ear to his neck. "Don't go near him," Carla whispered, grabbing the sheriff's arm. But Daniels stepped forward. "Harris?" he called softly. The figure didn't blink. Then it turned. Not its head, but its entire body pivoted unnaturally, like it wasn't used to movement anymore. And then it smiled. But the smile wasn't his. Daniels stumbled back. Carla pulled him toward the truck. The figure stayed still, watching even as they sped away. Back at the station, Daniels locked the evidence files and burned the copies. He looked Carla in the eyes and said, "We're not chasing this anymore. Whatever it is, it doesn't want to be found, and it doesn't want us to leave either." But by then it was too late. The town was unraveling. More people vanished, not just locals, but investigators, journalists, and even 2 state agents. Each time, only one thing was left behind: a photo. Always taken from a distance, always dated the day before the person disappeared, and on the back, always the same handwriting. "They asked too many questions," or "She came too close." Carla started recording voice memos to herself, in case she forgot anything. One morning, she played one back and heard an extra voice whispering under hers, "Follow the path, Carla, you've already begun." She left that night. Moved 3 states away, changed her name, never spoke of Marlowe Ridge again. But something followed. Mail with no sender began arriving at her apartment. Inside were Polaroids, blurry, dark shots of trees, paths, shadows. And always, at the edge of the frame, that same tall figure. She took them to the police. They shrugged. Could be a stalker. But how did they find her? How did they know she left? Carla burned the photos, switched homes again. But the dreams returned. Dreams of the clearing, of the circle of stones reappearing, of the earth opening like a mouth. And then came the final letter. No stamp, no return address, just one sentence. "You were never meant to leave." Carla hasn't been seen since. The case of Marlowe Ridge remains unsolved. The town is mostly abandoned now. Visitors describe a heaviness in the air, strange compass malfunctions, and feelings of being watched. The clearing? It can't be found anymore. Locals say it shifts. Some say Harris is still out there, or something that looks like him. A warning. Others believe the whole town was built on a fault in reality, a place where things slipped through. One journalist who tried to investigate wrote just 4 words in his final published article. Some doors open both ways, and then he too disappeared. Not all vanishings are accidents. Some are invitations. That should have been ignored.